Trump warning that another Biden term would be an economic disaster of epic proportions.
The problem I had is we were starting to really rock and roll. We had the greatest economy ever, and then we got hit with COVID. And if I didn't throw money at COVID, we would have had a depression like in 1929. And if I don't win, you're going to have a depression like in 1929.
But the left-wing media is not about to let a thing like facts get in the way of a good talking point. They instead choosing to ignore the trillions of dollars in spending and debt that's ignited inflation under Biden by claiming that Donald Trump is the one planning to supercharge inflation. Meanwhile, the president's allies are circling the wagons around his failed economic record.
I think the frame is who did a better job in the past. It's who's going to do a better job in the future. And yes, the reality is that prices are high. The question now is how do we continue to get inflation down? And what are we going to do on housing, on childcare, on taking on monopolies? The president has a clear vision. And I guess what I would love to see from President Trump is what is he going to do in the future? How is he going to get prices down?
Joining us now is Fox News contributor Liz Peek. So this is one of those up is down, left is right, everything you thought you knew is wrong. That can't work, can it?
Yeah, well, they're complaining that Trump hasn't already fixed what Biden has created in the way of inflation. Yeah, he didn't fix it before because we didn't have inflation under Trump. What they're saying in terms of like what the Atlantic came out with and so forth is that Trump's tariffs are going to be a problem. The deportation of a lot of illegal migrants is going to raise wage costs. So basically, they're arguing that the only way you can have a solid economy going forward is to continue to rack up trillions of dollars in deficits and allow unfettered illegal immigration across our southern border. Those are two pillars that are basically holding up the Biden economy, and it's a disaster, and we all know that. So what is Trump's plan? One, cut taxes, give people more money in their paycheck to deal with what's going on. And by the way, when you cut taxes on corporations, which is also part of his plan, you get investment. What does that produce? Productivity and lower costs for consumers down the road. So there is a plan. Obviously, his number one thing is drilling more for oil. And I was amused to see one economist saying, well, you can't do that anymore. We're already producing a lot of oil. There's no more. I can put him in touch with people who say that there are billions of barrels of oil, for example, in Alaska. Right away, you could be produced, not right away, but it would take a year or two. Right. You could certainly be increasing production. Get rid of the regulations. All this stuff adds costs to companies, yes, and they're passing it on to consumers.
From a political standpoint, though, what the Democrats are doing, starting with Ro Khanna. And by the way, Ro Khanna's area, he's behind a $6 billion award from the Federal Transit Administration for a 6-mile subway.
Yeah, everybody's getting something, right?
Again, of course, he loves the cronyism and the marriage of big government and big business, as left-wingers do. But what they're trying to do politically is message that Maganomics isn't what you remember it to be. And that, the last 3.5 years under Joe Biden, another 4 years isn't going to be as awful as the last 3.5 years, because they're fixated on, they call it Trump amnesia. And they're trying to redefine what Trump was to the American people and Biden as well. Yeah, I mean, by lying.
It's kind of interesting because they keep talking about the tax cuts and how that's going to be really inflationary. The taxes were cut. They did not boot up inflation. That came after the big spending spree that Joe Biden embarked on months into office. And you can literally chart it. I mean, it literally took 2 or 3 months for so much money to go into a strapped economy, an economy short of goods and other services and things people could buy, that it just basically went into inflation. Right. So we know the history. You can't rewrite. It's not Men in Black where you have a little gizmo that wipes out everybody's memory.
They'd love to have one of those.
Yeah, I know. They really would. It's true.
Let's go to this real quick. Americans are so fed up with prices under Biden that the Minneapolis Federal Reserve Bank president says people would rather endure a recession than face more inflation. But, to me, it's kind of like the inflation feels like a kind of recession. They're not choosing between the two. They're saying you've put us in a spot where it feels like everything is tight and we can't get ahead.
Well, and because of what they've done, that is the choice before us now. In other words, inflation has come down. To be sure, it was 9%. Now it's 3.5%. But possibly to get to 2%, which is the Fed's target, you may have to bring on a recession. That's kind of what the Fed presidents and governors are saying right now, is that it isn't really working. We're not able to cut rates because guess what? Inflation is stuck. So that's the choice that this administration is giving to the American people, by the way, the majority of whom already think we're in a recession.
Because of the vice grip
because
of
they can't make
inflation
money.
and higher interest rates on the debt that they have. Thank you so much, Liz.
Good to see you, Liz.
Thank you for having me.